1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, and welcome to the show. On a dreary Wednesday, but always made sunny by the presence of City Paper editor Christopher Potter.
It's landing on a bit thick, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Yes, indeed. So,
Yeah.
how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad.
I guess you must be feeling pretty good about yourself. I watched some of that game over the weekend and thought of you.
Yeah. You don't even like football. You watch some of
No,
that?
I sometimes do. I got more going on now. I just can't. I did watch a little bit.
It was a lousy game, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't a good football game, but it was, obviously, I like the outcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, congratulations to you and all the fans.
Thank you very much. I want you to be rooting for me, the team on Saturday. They play the 49ers.
Screw those 49ers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if you remember, of course you don't, when those replacement refs were in this season, there was...
is that the game where they actually cost the... I thought that was a Seattle game.
No, it was Seattle. I knew it was one of those West Coast teams. No, it was Seattle.
What that whole seaboard. It's all the same, pretty much.
Yeah, right. Well, whatever. So...
Yeah.
Here we are.
Okay.
Now, there's your paper's out today.
It is.
And you have the governor of the state on the
shirtless
cover. As
regular-sized breasts this time, though.
Yes, you have been having him naked quite a bit.
Yeah. I wonder what that says about me.
I don't know.
Or my art director.
But actually, it looks good. It looks like I think his body does look almost exactly like that. I think you got the bod right, from what I can ascertain. I'm just saying.
Got a scoop going on here.
Yeah, right. And he's pictured as, the
Penn State's number one fan. Rah, rah, rah.
Okay. Obviously, this has something to do with his bringing suit the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes, on behalf of you and I and all the Pennsylvanians.
I'm so appreciative.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see what the attorneys are getting, the retainer they're paying these guys? I mean, it's just unbelievable, guys. We're going to spend millions of dollars
on this
enriching this Philadelphia law firm.
Yeah, Cousin Connor.
Because Governor Corbett has made the political calculation that this will help him get reelected.
And I'm not even, honestly, one of the things that I'm not even sure he's right about that. I mean, there was just some polling data out earlier this week that said, while a majority of Pennsylvanians, I think it was 52%, are in support of the suit, and mainly that margin is driven largely by people who have Penn State alums in their household or whatever. But it does nothing for his overall approval ratings. They're flat. And he's just been, every politicians, just about every newspaper editorial I've seen, it's just blasted it.
He's the second most unpopular governor in the country.
This is what amazed me.
I sort of am confused about why that would be.
In a way, I have a theory about that. I mean, I will say this. The most amazing fact about Governor Tom Corbett's unpopularity, he polls lower with women than Rick Santorum did.
How the hell do you do that?
I don't know. I think it's part of the look away from the screen when you're having your involuntary transvaginal ultrasound. I think he's just. It's funny because I can remember when he ran as when he was an attorney general, he was actually fairly popular with women because a part of what he did as AG was he went after online pedophiles and stuff like that. So the women vote likes protecting the kids and all that stuff. So, it's amazing. I think part of it has to do with those of us on the left can't stand him, and those of us on the right don't really trust him. He's got a bit of a Mitt Romney issue with his own base there,
right?
And so when you hear there are people who are upset with Corbett on the right, and they're upset because he's not far right enough for their taste. So he hasn't, for example, gone out of his way to antagonize unions with a right to work vote and union busting of public sector unions and stuff like that. So, I don't know what he does. This clearly looked like a bit of a Hail Mary pass, RR, so to speak. But I don't think that gets the job done for him. I think a lot of people just don't really, there's still these lingering questions about how he handled the investigation in the first place.
That's what freaked me out. I think, why bring up this issue, which will only allow whoever's running against you to talk about the fact that you could have prevented this whole damn thing at the very beginning as Attorney General.
He knows it's going to come up no matter what.
We're talking about Sandusky for anybody.
Right, yeah. Who's been living any Pitt fans out there? He knows it's going to come up anyway. I mean, right? He has to know that in 2014 he's going to face these accusations. So if he does, if there's a political angle to this, which of course he says there's not.
Oh,
but if there is, that's got to be the calculation. You are going to get hammered on this one way or the other. You may as well do something that at least makes it look like.
The Republican political analyst Bill Green was saying that he thinks this is just the stupidest thing. So there are Republican strategists who think he's off his rocker.
Yeah. And I just, my feeling about this too is if you read this suit, what's so noxious and sort of pernicious about it to me is the way it talks about the stigma of these sanctions and the way, 10%, the revenues from game day are down 10% and business is down. And you know what? And here's the thing. Isn't it just possible that the stigma isn't attached to the sanctions, but attached to what actually happened
to those children and the fact
and isn't it just possible that 10% of people who would ordinarily have gone to a football game just said, you know what? I can't do it. I know people who are like that.
Yeah.
And so what I think is what's really pernicious about the suit, and I guess the Cullen tries to make this case is, this is a big shift of responsibility here. There's a moral responsibility that was not fulfilled by Penn State. There are a lot of people who revile Penn State for that reason. And this isn't about, you could say what you want is $60 million in fines, too much money or whatever. That's one question. But this whole notion that the NCAA for decades to come, this is in the lawsuit, for decades to come, this will hurt the value of a Penn State education. The reputation. That's just absurd. It's just absurd. And to try to push that off on the NCAA when it's really the fault of Penn State administrators and Joe Paterno, who by his own admission didn't do enough. The notion that the football program, for decades to come, they brought them on themselves.
Exactly.
And I had thought that the GOP, that the Republican Party was the party of personal responsibility, but apparently
no. And in fact, this whole suit, it's this whiny. We're the victims. Excuse me. I seem to recall children.
Right.
Children being the victims.
Right.
And victims in a way that has a lot more to do with a lifetime of hurt than simply having to fork over money.
Oh, and I don't know if you've read the complaint, but the language of the complaint just reads like a stump
about it at one
speech.
point. Yeah,
it's hard. The jobs of hardworking Pennsylvanians, and there's a whole paragraph about how Mark Emmert, the head of the NCAA, makes more money than his predecessor did, and there's some stuff about his salary. None
of that matters.
What does a federal judge care about
that?
It's absolutely not germane to the lawsuit. It just reads like a political screed. And
thanks a lot, Corbett. Corbett, who can't find money for the public schools.
That's the other thing.
Corbett, who can't find money for public schools, can find money, again, to use our tax dollars to help grease the skids for his reelection.
In fact, you bring out the funniest thing about this complaint is there's a line in there where he talks about this $60 million in fines is going to require a combination of increased tuition hikes and increased allocations from the Pennsylvania Treasury. Oh, so I guess it turns out there is a way to get Tom Corbett to up his contributions to higher education.
Disgusting. Well, I guess we figured out why he's so unpopular.
Yeah. There's just a quality to him that I think people don't know where the guy's center is. I think that's a big part of it.
Well, that, as you said, that's a Mitt Romney problem.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. Is that it?
I don't know.
You want to
brought it
rant
up.
anymore?
No,
I
I'm
believe
good.
you were. You wrote them.
I did write.
You don't
these.
always write the.
Well, it's just basically my
story.
regular column. Essentially, is all
Okay.
that is. So, we just thought it would be fun to make fun of Tom Corbett on our cover.
Okay,
here.
and speaking of unpopular politicians, a new poll shows that cockroaches are more
I saw that.
popular than Congress.
Yeah, didn't they beat out gonorrhea though?
No, I don't know. Did they
Wait,
beat out
gonorrhea? Because there's a cure for gonorrhea mostly.
They
You could clear that right up with a shot.
Congress was trounced by lice, 67 to 19.
Trounced by lice.
Trounced by Brussels sprouts. Trounced by traffic jams and the Ebola virus. Oh no! They did no. They edged out Ebola virus.
Right.
Oh, here are the only ones they edged out: Lindsay Lohan, Ebola virus, the Kardashians, and North Korea.
Man, that's harsh on the Kardashians. What did they do to anybody?
Well, everybody loves to hate them. I mean,
really?
I think, yeah. But they were bested by Genghis Khan. Do you say Genghis or Genghis?
I've always said Genghis, but I don't know if that's
Me too.
right.
Genghis Khan, the NFL replacement refs, used car salesman, obligatory, lice, and the band Nickleback.
Again, what a Nickleback to just turn the station. Jeez.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Now, also in regard to politics, while we're on the subject, a new Rasmussen reports that a poll shows that only 30% of likely U.S. voters, so these are the ones that tend to actually participate in this representative democracy, only 30% now have a favorable opinion of the Tea Party.
Yeah, and I think only 8% identified themselves as
actually being
a part of it.
Members.
That's down from nearly a quarter, I think.
But here's the thing that blows me away. So 30% of Americans, when asked, said they had a favorable impression of the Tea Party.
Right.
36% of Americans have a favorable impression of socialism.
Yeah, right. So this would be a great time for me to dust off my old SWP card, I guess.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, and it's just gonna get worse too. I was listening to Pat Toomey, who's of course a Tea Party hero. I was listening to him yesterday on the Laura Ingraham show.
Oh dear.
And I don't know if people realize this, but this debt ceiling thing, that's not going to be the end of it either.
Oh,
even if they
it'll
negotiate
never be.
that, if they negotiate that out in February, there'll be a new thing in March, which is general government spending bills come up, and they'll be using that again. This is just the creation of a continuous, I should say, catastrophe. It's just a rolling crisis.
They don't get it. They literally don't get it.
They have made the calculation, and he was I'll say this for Toomey. He lays it on the table. He just said, for us, it's all about we have to use these points of leverage to on things that the president wants. And anything the president wants. So this is what's funny is he characterized the debt ceiling debate as the president wants more borrowing authority, but that's actually not what the debt ceiling vote is. What the debt ceiling vote is
pay the damn bills.
Pay the debt that you already incurred by passing bills before, and maybe you, Pat Toomey, didn't like those bills, but
if we stiff, the people, countries, whatever that we owe, mostly that we owe money to,
right.
What do these people think?
Well,
how are they? What is he thinking?
I'll tell you what he's thinking, and it's just crazy all the way down. He's resuscitating this idea he had 2 years ago, which is we will prioritize our obligations so that the people who we owed the debts to, our creditors, they'll get paid with the money that we have, and we'll do like active duty military and like maybe Social Security benefits, but everything else. That's just down the pecking order. So when you look at that, this is the Washington Post did what you find it. First of all, if you can even do that, which is not clear because there's things like technologically speaking, the payroll systems and stuff like that are set to automatically pay bills. So I don't even know physically whether this is possible. Second of all, you're talking about, okay, so what are you going to cut? What are you going to cut? The federal court system? Because that's what you're talking about, shutting down the FBI. You want to shut down the FBI for a few weeks? He's acting like it's parks, like people just won't be able to go visit, the Tetons or something. He's acting like it's just like that stuff. He's like, it's not optimal. It's not optimal. It will be very disruptive.
Jeez.
I mean, it's a catastrophe. And the fact that he's just out there peddling this, and again, this is the Laura Ingraham show, so the entire audience is that 30% who has the favorable. These guys are buying it, and it's madness. It's just madness.
How? I don't know. Well, it's despicable.
Yeah,
also.
I mean,
it's just flat out despicable.
It is.
Okay. Bree out there in Asia.
Wow.
I always forget Bree if you're in Singapore. Yeah, Singapore. I believe, has sent this.
This is great. I love the global reach of this show.
Someone took a picture of, in lieu of a tip, what some rich jerk left on the table.
This is as a direct result of Proposition 30.
It's a little, he's printed it out, and he must put this on the table every time he goes out and President Obama's insistence that I pay my fair share in taxes, I find that I must cut back on discretionary spending and gratuities.
He was at a restaurant.
I wish it didn't.
Wasn't that discretionary spending?
I wish it didn't have to be this way for both of us. So this jerk goes out to the restaurant. This is what
he leaves instead of a tip.
He pays for his food, and he stiffs the wait person. And says it's Obama's fault. I wish it didn't have to be this way for both of us.
Compassionate conservatism in action.
Oh my!
This reminds me of Ari Fleischer, the former Bush administration spokesperson, who said, now that there's less tax incentive for charitable contributions, I'm cutting back on my charitable contributions.
Oh,
just
God. All right,
why would you want to? Why would you want to get up before the nation and basically say,
I'm a jerk?
I'm a jerk.
Because they don't even he doesn't recognize.
Yeah.
He really thinks that the only reason people were giving to charity is because they could write it off on their taxes.
I like this though. I have to cut back on my, what was it?
Discretionary
spending. He's at a restaurant.
Well, it's not. He has to eat, doesn't he?
Well, he doesn't have to eat at a restaurant. He could have eaten at a cheaper restaurant and paid the person a suitable tip. He could have skipped that second martini, which I'm guessing he had.
Jesus, God Almighty.
That's the perfect thing. I have to cut back on my discretionary spending. So basically, I could only pay to indulge myself. I didn't really have any money left over for you. That is essentially the entire right-wing thing about taxation.
Oh, God.
I can only afford to indulge myself. I don't feel obliged to contribute to the basic functioning of society. Whatever.
Okay, I want to ask you, you know how when your fingers get wrinkled when they're in water?
Sure.
Okay. Do you know why that is?
No.
No?
No,
Yeah,
I don't.
Don't. You
no,
don't?
I never thought about it. No.
Okay. Well, generally speaking, it's been thought that it's because of...
Oh, this is a controversy. Okay, good.
No,
right.
The result of the skin swelling in water whatever. That it's a biological response to what happens when your skin is immersed for a long time in water. But if that were the case, why doesn't your whole dang body wrinkle up?
Oh.
Why is it just the fingertips that wrinkle?
Oh.
Well... A study done by scientists in Britain.
Thank God.
Have said that there must be something evolutionary about this.
Okay.
And
an evolutionary advantage.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what they found is that people with wrinkled fingers, ridges on their fingers, can grasp wet or slippery surfaces.
Son of a bitch, yeah, right.
much better than smooth fingers.
Right.
So imagine our ancestors long, long ago scrambling around, maybe even having to get up a rock face or something.
Right.
Is it that they would immediately have this ability? It's sort of like a tread on a tire. Yeah?
Yes.
Well, why wouldn't it just be wrinkled all the time, though?
Yeah, that's also a great question.
Maybe.
Is that in the story? No.
But they've done a lot of, and there's no doubt that wet objects are easier to handle with wrinkled fingers.
Yes.
And they say that, it might have allowed better locomotion through wet vegetation or trees or foraging along rivers, whatever.
Huh.
And there you have it.
Well, this also explains why Ruffles potato chips are a superior life form to Pringles.
And on that note, we'll take our first break. We'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Lynn Cullen Live and Panera Bread celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
From the successful Montgomery bus boycott, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. organized the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Its fundamental goals were to stimulate nonviolent, direct mass action to expose and remove the barriers of segregation and discrimination, to secure the right and unhampered use of the ballot for every citizen, and to achieve the total integration of the black into American life. King would head the SCLC until his death.
Countdown to King, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health, and Lynn Cullen Live.
Today, My Care Navigator forwarded my medical records and freed my mind for other things.
Introducing My Care Navigator, your 24/7 healthcare co-pilot, new from Highmark.
My Care Navigator found me the ideal specialist. Less work for me.
My Care Navigator makes it easier to navigate the system. Call 1-888-BLUE-428 to connect with yours today. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Louis Black, plus Les Miserables, Yo Gabba Gabbas, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, welcome back.
Yo Gabba Gabba. Are you familiar with that?
Is that
it's a children's show. We've never seen it.
I was going to say, is it some sorority?
Yoga? Is it a sorority? We got a call? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Yes. Hello.
Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing today?
We're doing well, thank you.
Okay, you know what? I want to clear a couple things up. Two dirty little secrets. People don't. It's a big myth about the small business paying all these taxes and they're always getting beaten down. Well, it isn't true. Because if you go back and know people that pay local taxes, they don't even turn in what they even made. It happens all the time. But they cry and they cry and cry. The squeaky wheel always gets the oil.
Yeah.
And another thing, a dirty little secret people don't know, there's people collecting Social Security that never paid a goddamn dime into it. But they cry, oh, I should have that. I'm a senior citizen. You didn't pay shit in it to you. You collected because your husband made money.
Oh.
It's a bunch of bullshit. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Have a nice day. Love them.
Yeah.
All right.
The other reason the small business owner gets so much, I think, attention is because they're just a useful foil for, you can say, oh, this is about small businesses. This isn't about these rich people. This is about businesses that pay, small businesses that pay as individual taxpayers.
Yeah.
Although the number of businesses that's actually affected by any of these provisions is vanishing.
Oh, it's infinitesimal.
But it's a recognition on the part of Republicans, I think, and an interesting one, that rich people are less sympathetic, right? Because they have to sort of they have to kind of push. Right. It's just like small farmers are somehow become the poster children for agribusiness, for agribusiness and for the estate tax. So I think that's part of it as well.
Hey, speaking of agribusiness, I had a question answered the other day. I can't remember where I threw it out, but you know when you're flying over the country and you're flying west and you're over all those big square states?
Yes.
And you look down.
And you see the circular things?
Yeah, those.
Yeah, don't you know what those are?
No, I never did. And I thought, what are those? What are those?
I can tell you. What they are is they're irrigation things, and they basically work. There's a wheel on one end and a pole on the other, and they basically
the water
swing
goes
around. And the water goes
That's
around.
what they told me, but that's agribusiness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's how they figured out how to grow in those inhospitable.
Yeah. Well, for now,
areas.
we'll see how long that lasts once the Ogallala Aquifer is depleted. But hey, don't let me get you down.
Say that aquifer name again.
Ogallala.
Oh, it's Ogallala?
I believe so.
It's after a Native American
I think
tribe.
So. Yeah. You know, you kick them out and then you name stuff after them.
Yeah, Ogallala.
Yeah.
And I said just a moment ago while you were talking, and I just sort of swallowed the word, but it occurred to me I don't think I pronounced that word properly, and I want to back up and let you help me with it.
Okay.
I said infinite. Oh, it is infinitesimal.
Infinitesimal.
I said infinitesimal.
Oh, I didn't even. Okay.
No, because you were jabbering away as usual, and I can't get even half a word in edgewise, which is why I'm dropping syllables just trying to get.
So this is my fault.
Yeah.
Is that what this is?
All right.
The longer we do this show, the more and more like an old married couple we become. Oh, I see. It's about me, is it?
The Bickersons. Okay. And speaking of Ogallala Reservoir. So there's big headlines all over today that, yes, in fact, 2012 was the hottest ever in the United States.
Yep.
I mean, as far as we know. And Australia. Are you paying attention to Australia?
I did see this.
Hey, guys, you know, when it's winter here, it's summer.
In the South Hemisphere.
And we forget that.
Right.
I do. I always forget. I think if it's winter here, it's winter everywhere because we're so narcissistic. Or I am.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, they are having a summer from hell.
Yeah.
They are having temperatures so intense, and there's wildfires. There was a map in some newspaper today of Australia, and then little symbols where the wildfires are. The whole damn country is on fire.
Yeah.
In Sydney today, it'll be 103. And the meteorologists in Australia now have added, you know how you have these colors on a weather map, and the hottest is, like this
fiery red.
Fiery red.
Right.
That fiery red does represent a range of temperature. And they say that they have to add another color on top of it because it doesn't go high enough. They have added another color. I don't know what they're calling it.
Teal.
No, it has to be red form,
more of a
doesn't
fuchsia.
It has to be, like the new color, we're fucked.
We nearly did our kitchen in that.
Okay.
That would be an awesome. That's what they should do with paints at the stores. Just give them names like that instead of oatmeal custard. And you're like, what the hell is that? Anyway, go ahead. I mean,
or no, the names are things like rainy day in June.
Yeah. And it's usually the guy who's buying the paint, and it's so emasculating to go and be just like, yes, I'd like
we're doing the
buttercup swirl,
in
please.
Tin cup, and the walls. That wall we'll do in banana blues. Okay.
Anyway, back to your very serious point here.
Yes. They now have added a new color to their official weather maps for temperatures up to 129 degrees. And the all-time high temperature ever recorded in Australia is 123 degrees. Wow. They say it's going down. There's no way it ain't going down. And it's a kind of a purple. That makes sense, I guess. I guess it's sort of...
It's almost into the ultraviolet or something like that. Yeah.
So and in the United States, last July marked the hottest month on record, surpassing the worst of the 30s Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
And the corresponding drought that occurred. So, we have a call?
We do.
Okay. Hi, caller.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
TJ from Greensburg.
Hey.
Yeah, it's a great little study in the apocalypse and color theory. It's actually the hotter you get, the closer you get to blue.
Yeah, that's
Most
right.
people don't think that way.
Yes, that's right. That's when I said ultraviolet, I was like, oh, that's interesting because actually the frequency of
so a blue flame where a flame is blue,
hotter
that's
than
hotter than the
red one.
yellow and red.
If you think of just like an incandescent light bulb is very yellow, and it's because it's so much cooler.
Yeah.
Right.
And the farther you get on the scale, it gets, the hotter you get, the more you get towards the blue.
And we think of blue as cold. Isn't that weird?
It is weird. Eventually, of course, the maps will it'll be necessary to do maps just like beyond the visible spectrum. They will have to be ultraviolet or infrared. You'll have to wear those night vision goggles that like the SEAL team uses when they kill terrorists, just to be able to tell what the weather's going to be like when you go to work tomorrow in the morning.
But the other thing I wanted to mention about that is what drives me crazy is, well, there are many things, but one on the topic that you're speaking of is the debt debate. And how, and now I'm going to tie it in here, how it's a burden on our future generations and on our children.
Yes.
And yet the most immediate threat to future generations and our children and even us is global warming, and they will not say a word about it.
In fact, I was thinking this morning. Maybe this is like a crazy, far out thing to believe, but whatever. It's talk radio, right? I was thinking because I saw there was a thing in the paper about the gun. The Obama administration needs to move quickly on this gun thing because they already feel Congress is losing interest because of this other stuff. And I realized even if the Republicans don't get what they want on the debt ceiling, even if they don't get everything they want, they essentially are sucking all the oxygen out of every other thing we could be discussing. And your example is actually even better than the gun example. So even if they lose all the battles, it's still their turf we're fighting on.
Well, that's exactly, and a prime example of that is, everybody talks about the NRA. Why are they even giving them the time?
Yeah,
they're not an elected body.
Yeah, right.
Well, but they have they have skin in the game or something. There is an effort to make it look like we are being right.
But conversely, and this ties these two issues together too. There was a thing on Media Matters for America, their website. They did a study of how many times global warming got mentioned by Sunday talk shows and by news broadcasts, and I think almost never. I think Meet the Press had 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds of discussion of it in the entire 2012 year. Wow. No Democrats were quoted speaking about it. When a politician was discussing global warming, it was always a Republican, as you can well imagine. It was always to discredit the very existence of a problem. No scientists have ever been invited on any of these Sunday morning talk shows to talk about what's going on. And this is at a time, again, as we all know.
That's a media choice. So
it is a media choice.
Okay, so
I think it's remarkable.
Why don't media?
But why do so? For example, it's okay to bring Wayne LaPierre on your show to talk about guns because, as Lynn says, he has some stature. But you don't bring a scientist to talk about climate change. You bring on your pundits and your gas bags and your politicians. And this is just like future generations when they unearth the ruins of our own civilization and come up with all those David Gregory tapes. I don't know what they'll make of them, but one thing they'll wonder is how the hell could these people have been so worried about just this trivia when this thing was coming down and we know it. It's not like it's not like it's an asteroid that's going to peep out from behind the moon and kill us. We've known about this for years and we simply don't.
Well, then if Republicans have this capacity to set the agenda, the media agenda. What is it they're doing that we're? Why is that? Is it media, or is it somehow the Republicans' ability to gain the media's attention?
Are for the most part too fair-minded.
Oh, I don't even know. At this point, I'm starting to think there's more to it than that.
Yeah, but you think of it. Even in the gun debate, what drives me crazy is every time I've heard a person from the left talk about the gun debate, they'll say, well, we have to look at these assault weapons, but I'm not against dealing with the Second Amendment. I don't want to do anything with the Second Amendment.
Right.
Well, you know what? Maybe you should take another look at the Second Amendment because I'm no scholar in English, but when I read it, I get a whole different thing from what the Supreme Court has established.
We shouldn't even have to get rid of it. We should just restore the interpretation of it that existed through most of this country's history.
And here I'll go along with the late great Robert Bork and Scalia. Let's do original intent.
Yeah, right. Well, they're convinced they know what that is.
The non-living Constitution.
Yeah. The dead. He likes his Constitution dead. Look at this. Maybe
guys,
got to shoot. Thanks. A great call. Thank you very much. Yeah, folks should check that out. This Media Matters study. MMFA, I think, .org is the website. It's probably like the first item on there. It's just, I mean, it's what you always kind of suspected, but to see 6 seconds. To see 6 seconds on a.
You know, I suspect because it's science and because. Well, they got video now. They got drowning people. They've got tornadoes.
Ice caps disappearing. Time-lapse photos of glaciers disappearing.
You know, polar bears, the last polar bear on Earth, or this or that. I mean, sometimes they don't. TV doesn't do it because it's not visually interesting. But no, global warming.
There's plenty of visual, and they love storms. They have storm footage all the time. It's we don't lack for coverage of weather. We lack for an understanding of climate. That's the thing. It's just they don't. They just I think it's almost I think we're at a point. I mean, part of the reason that the Republicans do this is, let's face it, Democrats haven't put this on the agenda very well. I mean, how often did you hear Barack Obama one sentence, I think, in his convention speech? We believe that it's real, it's not a hoax, and let's not talk about it anymore. It's just sort of like it was just almost name checking it more than anything.
And the Republicans, what they laughed, and laughed because Mitt Romney brought it up.
Yeah, right.
Brought it up to ridicule.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah. He believes he can stop the rising of the oceans.
He's going to stand back. Yeah, like Moses.
Yeah,
right.
Let's see how hard you're laughing down in Mississippi. Which, oh, by the way, did you talk about the whole Rothfuss thing and all of that and the vote against the Sandy aid?
Why would I?
I don't know.
Why? I mean, why would there's no surprise there?
It is a little bit.
What the Roth? We know where Rothfuss is coming from.
Yeah, but I think it's important. I think it's important to realize just how extreme and radical that vote was. You got Darrell Issa, the guy who was calling the guy who Mr. I'm the policer of all fraud or whatever and pork spending. Darrell Issa votes for this bill, but it's not good enough for our very own
because he
Rothfuss
was sent to Washington by the good people of Western PA to stop this spending.
If I recall correctly, he did a stint working for the government on aid for Katrina. So it's just, but he's against this. And then you see that some of these people who voted with him against this $9 billion, which isn't that much, bill. They themselves hail from states that received Katrina aid. One of them, I can't remember, I think it was a representative from Mississippi, was just a few months ago pleading for aid stemming from Katrina years ago. He's still asking for aid. But 3 or 4 months after the Sandy thing happens, he's not down with it. We got to offset it with this. We got to offset it with cuts elsewhere.
Well, the rage. I mean, if you listen to Republicans like Peter King and these other Republicans from the area just excoriate the Republicans.
I love that, though. Like, here's a guy who's voted to cut off all kinds of spending for other people, but when it's his turn, his turn for a helping hand, all of a sudden he's surprised when his party isn't kicking down with it.
Well, but that's why I'm saying, why would you be surprised about Rothfuss?
Because it's still, I think sometimes my tendency, just personally, my tendency to not be surprised by things makes me complacent about them. I think we should be properly outraged. I mean, it's just morally despicable. These are Americans. These are our countrymen and women.
Well, it's been floated, the idea that Republicans, because they don't represent many of those people, those people that were, dead and homeless and having to deal with this and are not Republicans. So they don't. And in fact, worse, they're those coastal people who tend to be, whether in California or in New York, tend to be, those Democrats. And so they won't give money to them.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just at this point, you look at the Republican Party right now, and it's just.
Oh, you can't. I know. I can't even. This is true. I see you looking up there.
I did look up there. I was like, "Is it?"
I saw it. He's on me all the time. Take my breaks exactly
at the 20s. At the 20s.
At the 20. On the what do they say in radio?
I don't know.
Oh no, they say like, and weather on the 8s.
On the 8s.
Or weather on the yeah. So this would be weather on the 20s.
Commercials.
Commercials on the 20s.
On the 20s, yeah.
Doesn't have a snap to it, does it? All right. Well, let's get our second break in, and then when we come back, I'd like to bring up another topic, if you don't mind.
Very good.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% on gift cards to the Cheesecake Factory. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Yes, indeed. More with Lynn Cullen Live. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal today, page 3, about how the shale oil thing here is creating jobs, and they're having trouble filling them because these are the kind of jobs that require you to pass a drug test. And apparently,
everyone in rural Pennsylvania is on crank and meth.
Yes, exactly. As a matter of fact, it said, well, the headline is "Wanted Drug-Free Workers." I can't get close enough for that. And it says amphetamines and painkiller use is hiring hurdle in Appalachia.
Yeah.
But the why do they call that a date line when it's not
location.
A date?
Yeah,
it's a location.
Good question. I think it's just an old usage when they
the
do
location is Carnegie, PA, and they're talking about how these would-be workers are flunking the test because they're doing Oxycontin and and I guess amphetamines. So
I have a family. I have a in-law who works in the field of medicine and worked for a time in a ER in West Virginia, and the majority of people that would come into the ER were coming with a pretext for getting painkillers.
Yeah.
And he thought that was pretty sort of standout part of that experience for him. I remember when I used to spent summer when I was in college removing asbestos, and this work crew that I work crew that I work with, it was a drug-free employer, and every Monday we would get 3 or 4 new guys, and every Wednesday the drug results would come back from
and they disappear.
And they would always be on. It was like me and 2 other guys who were the only ones working like on Thursdays and Fridays because everybody else had to clear out after they got there.
PJ has written that he is photoshopping an image of Kardashian's ass over a global warming map with the hopes that the media will get on board with the discussion.
I gotta say that whole map's gonna be purple if you know what I mean.
Yeah. She's hot. Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk to you about this local story that is horrible. The 911 call.
Yeah, the Cassandra Wayne. Yeah.
It just makes no sense. I don't know how it's not a screw up. If a woman calls 911 and the phone goes dead, and then when the cops get there, a man comes and says everything's fine, and you don't say, "Can we talk to the woman who made the call?"
Right. And even he won't answer questions apparently, judging from what the 911 log said.
So how can that be right? How can that be proper procedure?
Yeah.
You would talk to the person who made the call, especially in the case of a woman in the line getting a commotion. The dispatcher hears a commotion and then...
Right.
I mean...
Right.
It doesn't take any imagination. I mean, we can understand. Who knows? She might have been dead already when they were there.
It's possible.
Probably.
Well, I don't know. No, because one of the things that was, I think it was in the Post-Gazette coverage, was this guy who later had a standoff with SWAT and killed himself. Sent him a note that said something. Now, is that necessarily true? We don't know, but
I suspect.
So it's all very. This is going to be. I feel like this is shaping up to basically be, for the Pittsburgh police, what the death of Curtis Mitchell was for the Pittsburgh paramedics. You remember Curtis Mitchell was the guy who this ain't a taxi service, and they just didn't bother.
He died because the ambulance they wouldn't come get him because they told him, the guy who was calling for the ambulance, to walk through 4 feet of snow to get to them.
This feels like there's some very similar questions here about sort of the level of engagement by the folks out in the field in this particular case. And, I think, though, my guess is those cops feel really awful.
I can't imagine.
Worse than we could possibly believe.
Exactly.
There have been some questions about, these are judgment calls. They get a lot of calls on, obviously now we know what the tragedy was here. We don't know what was said to these officers, and it's also not entirely clear that there's a set policy to be followed for these situations. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to say that there's a context in which these guys are operating.
But how could it not be procedure? And if it isn't, then it damn well better be from now on.
Yeah,
that you talk to the person who made the call.
Well, look, we had a situation. I mean, and I thought it was not the same thing at all, but we had a situation in my house, and I think I might have joked about on the show where my kid resulted in the police being called to my house, which is something I wasn't expecting to happen until he was like at least in 2nd or 3rd grade, and it's because he dialed 911, and I don't know exactly what they heard, obviously, because I didn't know that he dialed it, but they probably heard some scrabbling sound of a phone on the floor, then somebody going, "God damn it, Corbett," or whatever.
Right.
And that officer didn't ask to speak to my 15-month-old son at the time to make sure everything was. He came to the door. I told him, "Oh my God, I'm sure that must have been my kid dialing the phone sometimes." And it was fine. And then the officer left. So I don't. This obviously is not that same set of circumstances. I appreciate that, but all I'm saying is at this point,
maybe this poor woman, she somehow managed to be calm.
Yes, right.
That's what they said. She was calm. She managed to be calm instead of hysterical, which I would have been.
Well, I will say this, and I don't want to say too much about this because this is something we're probably going to be reporting on in the near future. This was not the first time that police were called to deal with her situation with this guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
So she may have had more. She may not have realized it was going to go as ugly as it had. As it did. She may have just felt at that time like she's clearly been in situations where she felt there needed to be.
But also, if the cops had been called because of domestic disturbance before, then again, all the more reason.
Right. Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm saying that she may have been have had practice in dealing with this, and
so knew. I mean, one of the maddening things about calling 911, in case you never have, is they're so damn calm. I mean, you aren't, and they are, and they don't let you say what you want to say immediately. Like, they say, "What is your address?
Yeah.
What is the problem?" I mean, there's just like absolutely no sense of their voices don't sound urgent, which is what you want. You want a sense of urgent, but of course they're being professional.
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to think. There was another local story that was in. Oh, I know what I want to ask you about. The Stubenville thing. Okay?
Right.
Because I find myself somehow not engaged like everybody else is in this story, because I find I'm queasy about this whole damn thing, how it's become this cause celeb and the role of social media in that. And then and then mainstream media piggybacking on what social media started, and the result being like these hundreds of people railing outside the courthouse. I mean, it reminds me of To Kill a Mockingbird. It reminds me, crowds outside courthouses with masks on feels like a lynch mob to me. I don't like it. And I don't like anonymous sources. And I don't like anonymous sources that have hacked into other people's stuff. And my understanding is that the system was working. What? The thing happened on August 11th or 12th. The girl makes the complaint on August 14th. These three boys are arrested within a week. There is if you weren't paying attention and you looked at this, you would think that no charges were I don't get the hullabaloo on this one. I don't get it. I understand it's a small town. Right. They worship football. Right. Fine and dandy. They also, because there were conflicts of interest, they asked really early on in the situation for the state to take over. Right. So I'm sorry. I don't get this. I don't get this one.
I think a few things are going on. One, let's go back and remember that this wasn't just a rape. That allegedly, we should add. This was a night in which this young woman was humiliated, transported from place to place, humiliated online. There were apparently Twitter photos taken of it. There was, as we now know, some, jackasses joking about it. Nobody stepped in to stop this thing from happening. This is about three guys who do face charges, but they weren't acting. There was a level of aiding and abetting going on here that stretches out about this, and it did happen online, and to a large extent, her humiliation was beyond. I mean, the social media here, it's not like Anonymous came in and made this a social media thing. This was a social media thing. The crime against her was in some ways a social media crime. But
it is perpetuated by now the rest of it. That social media, that kid, that obnoxious jerk, talking. It seems to me that, I watched it, and I felt as I was watching it, like, I shouldn't be watching this. The exploitation of this girl's humiliation
by the people who put his video up,
and everybody who looks at it, and then gets all in a every time you see no.
Well, what's the point of covering any crime then?
Yeah, look. This is why you have a trial, right? The authorities knew all this stuff. The authorities had seen all this stuff. Why do we? I really don't get it. Why do we? Are we parties to this? Why do we need to see this? Oh, we don't even know the name of this girl. Because, of course, media is very careful to protect the victim of something like this. When, in fact, media is just putting it out there left and right. Should we have seen the pictures of her?
I see.
Should we have seen this? No.
Right. But again, remember. It wasn't Anonymous who originally put that stuff out there. I take your point that the fact that they're sort of recirculating the offending images because the images themselves are part of the
contained in a very small community.
Right, I understand what you're saying.
That already knew her.
I understand.
And that knew.
Right. Okay. What that just makes it.
That also this crime.
Right. The problem is those photos themselves. Legally speaking, I don't know whether it's true, but morally speaking, those photos themselves are a crime. Right? So because they are part of the humiliation that was done unto her. And the fact that it was a small group that all knew her just sort of speaks to the level of humiliation. She has now been basically victimized, not just by these people who actually physically abused her, but by the people who circulated these images. Well, I think what you're saying, it sounds to me like what you're saying is that the social media that has put those images out there to document the crime is also sort of repeating the offense by circulating those photos to a wider audience, and I think that's a valid concern.
Let me as a member of the media, and in this culture,
right?
We now live in a culture that considers outrage entertainment.
Yeah.
And there is people, I'm sorry, Chris, I think making this girl's humiliation and all of it, water cooler talk, exacerbates it. There is no... There's a trial in February. Anything. This would have been held in this much smaller kind of in a crucible, granted. Right. Now, it's what? It's national. And we're also righteously outraged.
Sure. Yes.
And there's a pornographic aspect to this that all the people who are so righteously outraged, I don't think consciously are aware that they're engaged in. Shut the hell up,
I don't know
back off, and let the judicial system handle it, which it's doing. What? No.
The flip side of that, though, is...
Why this case? Teenage girls
are raped and urinated on every day? Is that what your argument is? That's a terrible argument. That's a terrible. First of all, I don't know if that's true. I think the circumstances of this case are pretty heinous by any standard. And second of all, even if it were true, I think it's worth documenting. Part of the problem that I have with this.
Why do we think we know what happened that night? You said what happened. Do you know what happened?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't read all of the testimony and all that stuff. But certainly, what you've got there's been plenty of evidence to suggest that plenty of people thought this was going on and thought it was a hoot.
Okay, so that's what I want. Okay.
But let me back up though for 1 second, because I was struck by your argument. Is kind of like the Post-Gazette had this editorial, which was just sort of like this very prim, sort of editorial, like these social media people are making trouble. Well, the Post-Gazette hadn't covered this story until a couple days ago. So here's and Stubenville is very much within the Post-Gazette's coverage area. Yeah. So you're going to sit on your ass and not deal with this thing for months and months and months, and then you start paying attention to it because some online social media people started paying attention to it, and that's why you go, because there is a protest. It's that protest on the steps that got the mainstream media into it. If the Post-Gazette is on that story...
The New York Times covered this weeks ago.
The New York Times covered it after a blogger had already started putting this stuff on there. And what the New York Times coverage is this blogger has now created this sort of shitstorm within the community.
Right.
But there should be a shitstorm within that community, because what happened apparently within that community, at least the allegations, are so heinous that there should be a serious coming to Jesus moment for Stubenville as a whole and everybody in that community.
This is what... Okay.
We started talking about Penn State and a communal sense of responsibility.
I don't think Stubenville is any different than any other city, nor are the people who live there, nor their children any different.
Except that some of their children apparently circulated and did this.
That's right.
And do I think the people of Stubenville as a whole are worse than the people of Weird? No, because it happened. Because apparently it happened.
And we want to now punish Stubenville.
No, we want to punish the people who were involved and the people who stood by and did nothing.
Okay.
We started out talking about Penn State and what the communal level of responsibility there was.
Here,
Joe Paterno didn't feel like it's his fault either.
Wait a minute. Here's what I want to know. Why? Okay, there were parties that they were going to.
Yes.
3 in houses.
Yes.
These houses are owned by
people.
Adults.
Yes.
Everyone involved in this is a child, legally. They are drunk. They are going from house to house, getting drunker. If anyone should... why are there no arrests of...
You started saying
adults,
right? Okay, so you started what you just said a second ago, that it wasn't fair to single out Stubenville, and I'm saying there's a larger communal issue here, and you're asking what you're pointing out to is exactly the same kind of broader thing.
I don't like things that look like mobs.
No, I also don't like things. But let's be honest, where the mob started here was the mob started on that night. What happened is a little mob got together and victimized a girl, and now a bigger mob is piling on that little mob. That's what's going on. You're seeing mob justice, and there's a national mob, and you're right. It's not pretty to watch.
I hate it.
It's not pretty to watch. But had it not been for this smaller mob that victimized and laughed at this victimization in the first place.
My understanding is these guys might walk because there is no physical evidence. That's what we're told too.
In part because people deleted cell phone
photos. Okay, so then what are they going to do? Now are we going to, I guess the mob will descend upon these, the people that they have convicted and string them up?
I don't know.
Oh. Listen, here's why I'm queasy. I know why I'm queasy. Remember Duke?
Yeah,
Remember?
Of course. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I had a radio show then. I was all over them.
Right.
I was part of that mob.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. And I was wrong. And I learned a lot. You said it's time for a come to Jesus moment for Stubenville. That was a come to Jesus moment for me.
Right.
I don't join mobs anymore.
Right.
I let
that.
things play out. I don't particularly like Anonymous. Now, they're the heroes in this? Yep. F them. They are a bunch of, I'm sorry. Anonymous is the one that, tried to make hay with the, with all the trouble at Pitt. With the
no, that was
bomb threats.
No, I think that was not Anonymous. That was
yes,
from what we know, it was some guy in Scotland with his crazy
No. There were some of these guys from Ohio. Weren't they part of that?
No,
network?
there's apparently one other guy who just had his own crazy data release thing, and I don't even know that he was.
I hate those masks. I hate that face. I do not want to see that again. Anybody wearing that mask, I hate. I hate you immediately. And just like I can't stand the anarchists, I might agree what they're against at the moment with their little, with their bandanas covering their face. As my sister pointed out yesterday, a hood is a hood.
Right.
Anybody covering themselves up to state what they want to say, I don't listen to you, I don't like you, and I don't join mobs anymore.
Right. I appreciate that. I will say we started this show talking about how Penn State wasn't the victim and the Penn State students weren't the victim here. Let's remember that we have, I'll take your point, an alleged victim who was made to suffer a level of humiliation that no human being
and we're going to damn well make sure that everyone knows how humiliated she was.
You raise a good point, but her victimization is something we should. I'm far more concerned about than whether Stubenville is given a big sad because it's been held up as a community that tolerates this stuff. That's
that worships football.
Yeah.
Need I say Ben Roethlisberger? Come on.
But isn't that exactly the point? Isn't that exactly the point? That there's something. I think the issues. But that's right, and that's why
they're going to be the poster. They're the whipping boy, huh? For the rest of us?
No, I don't think so. But I think when crimes happen, it's just ridiculous. It sounds like what you're saying is let's step back and just say, sure, this crime happened here apparently, and sure that there were these cell phone things taken about it, but stuff like that happens all the time. So let's not single them out. That horrible thing happened.
Singling? I don't understand.
A horrible thing happened, and
what?
And you can't expect people to not respond to that.
Media
it's just like
cherry pick horrible things all the time, right?
The circumstances of this case, as alleged, as described, are fairly extreme. You don't see a lot of serial multi-stage rapes that assaults that take place over different houses because there aren't complaints.
Didn't make it into a public
because
spectacle.
There aren't criminal complaints about it. It happens. There are sexual assaults that happen. They get covered. Heinous sexual assaults get covered by the mainstream media all the time. When they happen, they get covered, but they don't happen every day. They don't happen in a community like Steubenville every day.
If they don't happen every day,
they don't happen with multiple witnesses. If they don't happen every day,
then how come 1 in 5 women report being raped?
Because these women,
1 in 5.
When they report it, are they reporting that a bunch of other people are standing around taking cell phone pictures? Are they reporting being urinated on? Are they reporting being taken from one house to another in a drunken stupor? And being humiliated repeatedly over the course of an evening. This is an extreme. The facts of this case, as alleged, are extreme. And to think that it's just another day at the office for the rape unit or whatever, just seems insane to me that you're making that argument. This is so far beyond the pale.
And the point is that we're supposed to all be outraged. Okay? And I'm outraged every day. I read the papers every day. I'm outraged constantly.
Well, but then why bother? Because it sounds like you're saying shit happens. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to follow your argument as best I can, but it sounds like your argument is basically shit happens, so we shouldn't get worked up about it. As far as I can tell, that's what you're saying.
I think the worked up about it is getting in the way of a fair trial for these people.
Okay.
And it's not as if justice is not taking its. I get outraged when justice doesn't happen.
Right.
So when Johnny Gamage, I'm in the mob there. That's not a mob. That is, I protest this.
Right.
Right?
Right.
There are guys in jail already. They're under house arrest. They never played another down of football. It's not like the community looked. I'm confused.
But when but a lot of those Johnny Gamage protests happened before the officers had their trial. A lot of them happened. So would your advice back in 1995 have been, let's just let the justice system take its course and let's not have a march? Let's just trust the authorities to do the right thing? I guess that's why I'm kind of surprised at your perspective. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that there's a level of exposure here which may well be victimizing this woman all over again. I think that's a really important and valuable point.
We couldn't victimize Johnny Gamage anymore.
Right? No, you're
dead.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So there are definitely concerns there, but I guess you're kind of taking this to a level that I guess I'm just really having a hard time following.
Okay, well, I know something's really bugging me about this, and I think it's probably those masks. If the masks weren't involved, I might be okay. Right. But how do you pronounce that guy's name?
Guy Fawkes.
Fawkes?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Fawkes?
Fawkes.
I know, but I hate that face. And when I see a whole bunch of them and they got like pitchforks and carrying, flaming torches, queasy.
Yeah.
Queasy.
Yeah, okay.
And I know getting off on being self-righteous, while this girl only has her humiliation broadcast on a bigger and bigger and bigger stage.
Yeah. No, I understand.
No, you don't.
I understand your argument.
You just don't agree with it.
I don't agree with it.
So, what are you planning? A big, huge issue next week on this?
No, we actually have a story in this week's issue where we interview the guy who posted the video of the kid blathering on. So you can read that
okay, which I think was unnecessary.
Okay,
he was not a perpetrator.
That's
but you're saying he's an idiot. You know what? May I just want to remind you, these are idiots by definition.
Right.
They are adolescents.
Yes, that's right.
They are drunk. So their idiocy is compounded and compounded and compounded.
Right.
As idiotic as that boy was and how disgusting he was.
Right.
His life is now destroyed.
Yeah.
Do you not agree?
I think
he's done. He's destroyed.
I don't know that he's destroyed for the rest of his life.
He committed no crime, but the mob has destroyed him. Does he get into a college? I don't think so. Does he get a job ever? I don't know. He was a drunken teenage idiot, thinking he was being funny.
Yeah.
And the mob, count one there for the mob. They got that jerk. Okay? That's a boy. His brain's still not formed. His ability to make judgments not formed. He's finished. Go, mob, go! Go, mob, go! We'll do justice our way. Screw the courts.
Thanks for joining us on the Lynn Cullen Show. Tomorrow, Tom Sokolowski.
No, he's not
no? Be here. Oh, dear. Well.
Actually, we're going to have one of your compatriots, Charlie Deach, on to talk about another one of Governor Corbett's really smart ideas.
The state
which
store.
Is to make
lottery.
All of us gamblers, because they don't like taxes, you understand, so they have to have people with gambling problems support the state, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow, too. Go, mob, go! Go, mob, go!
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.